Hi everyone, my name is Jan, and what I really want to do is to make sure you're all sewing. There's some things that I'm looking to show you today of pillowcases, and it's a silly thing to make, but number one, it'll take your stash and get it down to nothing. Number two, everyone enjoys a fun pillowcase to be able to do. For my grandsons, during baseball seasons, we made the baseball ones and put their names on it. Of course, if you have an embroidery machine, you make sure you got names on it because that makes it special for everyone. Let me show you how simple these are to make. I'm going to show you two different versions because one, I had my 6-year-old grandson make his own Cavaliers one the other day, and he had a riot sitting on my lap doing it. But you can make it very simply, and then I'll show you a more professional one. So let's get started with the simple one. The directions are nothing more than 3/4 of a yard of fabric. So 3/4 by the width of fabric, which is 45. Your other piece, which is your headliner, where the black is 9 inches wide, folded and pressed. So I pressed it, I folded it in half, right? And I'm going to just sew it right on down my seam. If you haven't tried the new Wonder Clips, try them. All they are is like little clips, and they're so much nicer than pins. The little kids really like the Wonder Clips. Now I sew enough that I probably wouldn't even pin this because I'm going down straight. I'm going to run it on my serger because I have a serger. You don't have a serger, just run it on your sewing machine. It's no big deal. A serger I couldn't be without, but so I'm going to cross the width of the fabric, 27 inches, or excuse me, 45 inches, because it's the width of the fabric. I have my 9-inch piece on top. I think you should time me on this because I'll bet I'll have it done in about 4 minutes. It was really fun the other day when I was doing this with my grandkids and they were doing their bedroom and I had them do calves pillowcases, and they did them in nothing. I've done a lot of these where we're doing charity. Okay, I've just sewed my piece across. See what I'm doing? I've just sewed my 9 inches across. Now I'm going to take my 45 wide, fold it in half. So I will be taking my sewing machine and stitching right on down. Now you without a serger, this is all on the selvage. So the selvage is already something that's not going to ravel. So if you just run it on your sewing machine, it's very simple to do and it won't unravel on you. If you have a serger, we're going to run it on the serger. It just cleans it. You get spoiled on a serger real fast because it's cutting my edges off for me at the same time. I'm running down the part that's 27 inches long. I'm going to show you how to do a more professional one too in a minute. So I have now just gone down the side of my pillowcase. So I went from the 9 inches all the way down. So now all I have left is to sew this little piece across here. You get it? So it's the bottom of my pillowcase. And I'm done. Now if you use a good piece of fabric, it's worth spending it for the good quilt fabric because it's going on their head. And you know yourself, when you got a nice pillowcase, it just makes you feel all comfortable. When my daughter went to college, we made them for all the holidays and for any time it was something so easy. But then when they went to college, do you think that they still wanted these pillowcases and their girlfriends up in the college dorm still wanted them too? So it's just one of those kind of fun things to be able to do. Many of you with little grandkids, you can make this for them and they absolutely love it. And look how fast it is. Now that's for my little grandson that loves dogs. Do you think that he won't love it? I'll have Evan on it and I'll be all set. Simple, done, totally accomplished in that time. Like I said, I wish I would have timed me because I bet it didn't take any more than 5 minutes. You could also throw gifts in it. So if you're taking gifts, there's your gift bag and you've got a gift bag and you've got the pillowcase. I did that for all my kids when they went to parties, when they were in school and they went to their friends' parties. They were always invited when you get a gift like that, and it's kind of fun to be able to do. So it's really pretty neat to be able to do. I'm going to now show you one where I'm going to perfect the insides a little bit. So I'm going to show you another version. It doesn't take very much longer, but do you see how I put this flange on here? I put the flange on, which just makes it a little bit more special, and it's called a hot dog effect. So there's no seams on the inside. I'll show you that so you can choose which way you want to do with it. But don't think twice. Pillowcases don't get washed that often, and just a seam down them makes it really, really super, and it's super, super fun. Now what I'm going to show you is a pillowcase that's got a little bit more detail to it, and all the seams are going to be finished on the inside. So it's a little bit more work. It's professional, like a professional pillowcase is made. So we'll show you that. It might take me 10, 12 minutes to make this, but it does come out real pretty with a little flange on it. So whichever way you're in the mood to do, go for it. Now, what we got to do is the same measurements. We're going to take our 27-inch fabric by the width of the fabric. So 45 this way, 27 inches long. This piece is 9 inches. Fold it in half, and what I'm adding is a little 3-inch flange. So what I'm doing is I have my 27 inches, I have 3 inches that I folded in half, so I just folded the half, that's going to go here. And then my 9 inches, remember I've already pressed it, so I'm going to put it right here. Now this is called a hot dog effect. And it takes a little bit longer. I wouldn't try to teach a 6-year-old how to do this one. But what I'm doing is pinning this all the way down. But we aren't going to sew it yet. We're just pinning for a second. Take your little wonder clips, your pins, whatever you use. Oops. All the way down. Got it? So you're actually going through 4 layers. You're going through your pillowcase exactly, one side of the flange, the other side of the flange, and at this moment, I'm only connecting half of your 9 inches. See? Only half. So I'm going through 4 layers. The hot dog effect here, as I've pinned all the way down, the hot dog effect is this. I'm going to wrap up this 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to take my 9 inches and I'm going to wrap it in. So all my extra is here. Now as I pin this, I'm going to show you what it's going to look like, and it's going to make a lot of sense to you. So the difficulty is you're trying to keep all your layers together. That's why I want you to pin it all together first. Then come back and do your hot dog where you pulled it around. What I've done now is I have got this all wrapped in here. Pretty easy. Pin it all the way down. So as I go, I have now got my piece all pinned down, all the way around with all that extra fabric in here, and it looks weird. But it's pretty cool how it's going to come out. I'm going to stitch down my edge now. Oops, didn't get my sewing machine ready here. Okay, so I'm going to stitch down my seam. Put your machine on half speed, but you know, when I was doing this with my little grandson, I have a speed control on my machine. So on the baby lock sewing machines, you can slow them down. See how slow I can go? So his fingers are out of the way. You can still get finger guards for the machines for the little kids, but don't be afraid to let those kids sew. If we've got them really, we've noticed from 6 to 10 years of age, and by 10, 12, they're into sports, and they don't really want to sew with us grandmas anymore. So get them now, and they are so pleased. I've got a little 8-year-old, my little 8-year-old grandson, and he is so excited. He's actually going to do this with charity quilts, charity pillowcases for us, so we can give them when disaster helps, and the kids that need them. So we collect them. So it's a great thing for him to get involved in, and he can make them. I'm going to now take this and I'm going to pull the whole thing out. And it's pretty scary because you think, oh my goodness, did I do it wrong? But as you pull this out, you are going to find that you have finished the inside absolutely perfectly. So what did it take me? An extra 2 or 3 minutes to be able to do the pinning. So look what I got. So now my flange is there. Let's go this way. Do you see my flange is there? I can press this all out. Here's my 9 inches, and the other side means this is 100% finished. So all the way down, you have a very, very, very completely sealed edge. Do you remember the other one would have just had a seam allowance that I did on my serger? You could have used a 1/2 inch, 5/8 inch seam allowance and had it on there. Now I've encased it all. So, look what I've got. Should I go over the instructions one more time just to make sure you understand where we're at? To make this, I have taken my fabric and I have wrapped it around. Let's go on this side so you can see better. I have my 9 inches, I have my 3 inches pressed, and I have my pillowcase. I'm stitching them all, pinning them all together, and then I'm going to take my 9 inch piece, wrap it right on around and pin it all the way down. So it's actually in a little circle. Once you get done, you pull from one side, it automatically comes right out. It's super, super easy and super fun and very, very, very nicely done. It doesn't take very long to put the flange in, and I think it adds a whole lot to it. I've even added rickrack here just for something. I put the kids' names on them, whatever I'm doing. So now to finish it. Professional pillowcases are sewn with a flat felt seam. What a flat felt seam means is that we will sew them wrong sides together. We're going to match up our seam allowance here where I have my flange. Always we sew right side together when we sew. Today we are going to sew wrong sides together because then we're going to flip them and sew them again. So I'm sewing wrong sides together. If you have a serger, this is a great place for a serger. If you have a regular sewing machine, we're going to take a seam allowance, making sure that I have covered all of my selvages, because the selvages are still there. I'm going to have to do a tinge of trimming. Everybody needs some TV work. A serger would do the job for you. We've sent these wherever hurricanes have happened, where people need it. It's just a little bit touch of joy. We send them up to the hospitals. Not so much for the babies of the infants, but sometimes there's 2- and 3-year-old kids that have very sick brothers and sisters. Something simple to do. I bet you have a lot of fabric in your stash that you could do this with, and it wouldn't cost you a penny. And you'd be real pleased. What I've done is just stitch the right sides together. I'm going to trim it, and then I'm going to trim this right up because I don't need that big seam allowance. So just trim it down to 1/4 inch. At this point, what I need to do is to take my pieces. Remember, I sewed the first piece wrong sides together. Now I'm going to sew right sides together. So I'm going to turn this. Remember, in sewing, your iron is your best friend. We always want to do it as fast as we can and not take the time to iron. You know, when I have been in sewing for 40-some years, and everybody that you see brings in their garments or brings in their projects that they're making, you can always tell the ones that have pressed every single minute of every single stage. It's worth it. So even though I'm not doing it today, it's because I don't want to take up your time. But I really want you to get in the job of pressing. All I've done now is turned it right sides out, and I'm going to stitch in another 1/2 inch. So I have trimmed my first seam down to 1/4 inch. And now I'm going to come out and take a 1/2 inch seam just real quickly. I just want to show you an inch here so you can understand what I'm doing. It's good enough just to show you, not take up any more of your time. You can go have one made already. Okay, so do you see what I've done? Do you see that now I have a perfect edge here and I have a perfect finished seam in here? So I have finished both sides. So the first pillowcase I made for you had a serged edge on it. When my little grandkids made it, I just let them do a seam down. It wasn't a big deal. How many times are they going to be washed? They aren't going to ravel out. Take a 5/8 inch seam. That gives it a little bit of time to fuzz on the end if you wanted to. So this is, again, a very, very professional pillowcase. You're going to go all the way down to the edge, all the way down to the bottom. At the bottom, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to take it, you're going to sew your right sides together, flip it, put a 1/2 inch seam in it, and you're 100% finished. At this point, let me show you, you have a beautiful seam all the way around. So on this one, I even did it with white thread. I hoped it would show up better for you. But can you see where I went back with my 1/2 inch seam allowance and went down? When I got down to the corner, I have to do the same thing. I have to turn it and then do the exact same thing. Put wrong sides together first, sew your 1/2 inch, trim it to 1/4, and take another 1/2 inch edge so that you've got a finished edge all the way around them. Pretty fun, pretty easy, and you're going to be surprised. I've seen people take hunter fabric and give it to grandpas. I've had people, sports, obviously, when your grandson's into soccer or something, or your kids are into baseball, get the baseball fabric, as I have. Whatever you can do. You could do the school colors. So whatever their school colors are in, do that. They take their pillows to sleepovers. Believe me, everybody's going to be jealous, and you've made something in absolutely no time at all, and you've made a memory. What a fun thing to do. I really hope you encourage some young kids to sew with you and to keep them sewing too, because it is a craft. It teaches them a lot of math. It's kind of funny when you're teaching them 27 inches by 45 and add this and add that. We think nothing of it because we sew, but it's math. So it's good all the way around. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you go up and sew one today. Remember, they're great gifts for all year round. Enjoy.